Hey, everybody. Welcome to Craig Perra's podcast. This is Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. And again, today, I have a very, very special guest. And I'm so excited to bring to you this perspective from the female side. So with me today, I have Ashley Noel, who's an intimacy a specialist and a life coach and an awesome person. And I want to welcome you to the podcast, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here, and we're going to jump right in. And I'm so excited, Ashley, because, this is a subject that, people don't like to talk about. And I'm excited because I hear from so many women who reach out to me, and it's like, you're only talking to the guys. What about us, female sex addicts or people who struggled with intimacy and connection and love and healthy sexuality? But I'm not just excited for them. I'm excited for the men too, to see the other side, to humanize, the people that they may be, acting out with and just, we're talking about human beings here. So you've struggled, Ashley, with unhealthy sexuality. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? And you've called yourself a sex addict, and you moved well beyond that and have done incredible work to put that behind you. But you are so brave for coming out here and talking about it. I can't begin to tell you how brave you are. But tell me about your problems and when things got real low for you.
Yeah. So I had an abusive marriage and there was a lot of body shaming, and I gained a lot of weight after pregnancies. And instead of giving me time to heal or whatever, it was always brought to my attention that I was no longer attractive. I was no longer desired, and I was an embarrassment to be seen in public. So, after I left that relationship, I was so beyond desperate. It was disgusting. Like, I needed any kind of male affirmation, anything where anyone would tell me I was attractive. I was wanted and desired. I'm sorry. And so that's when I started realizing, okay, it is very easy for a woman to find a guy who will tell her all those things and will not only say it, but show it. And so it just spiraled out of control from there.
Wow. So this isn't something that went back, did it go back from an early age where I was always promiscuous. I was always, hooking up. I was, valued myself by the notches on my belt. I know it's different being a woman. Was this something that went back further, or is this really grew from that abusive marriage?
No, it definitely goes back further. It goes all the way back. I mean, I was a little promiscuous as far as I can remember. But then my father and my parents separated, and I didn't get to see my father a ton. So then enters like the whole daddy issues type thing, and finding some kind of pleasure and affirmation and validation and everything in guys. And even in middle school, I mean, they only want sex. They talk about it all the time. They'll joke about it. And so you're growing and hormones are everywhere, and you're trying to just discover, like, okay, is this something I want to participate in or not? That's what the cool kids are doing, those kind of things. So yeah, I started being really promiscuous, I think by like 14 and 15. And then it kind of grew from there. It's like abusive relationships, kind of, where it was, if I didn't sleep with that person, then see you later. And I just get tossed aside.
And so sex became sounds like it became your primary way to get that affirmation. And I've always said to myself, thank God I'm not a woman, because it's harder when you're a guy. It's you got to work but as a woman, it's easy to find somebody, and there's always somebody willing to hook up and to be there for you. When did you realize it became a problem? And I ask because, you get out of this marriage, you're free. You're free to explore and you're free to express yourself, and you're an adult and you can do anything you want, as long as you're healthy. But there came a place when it wasn't healthy. Tell me when you realized that this wasn't something that was good for you.
Well, it started escalating a lot. So after my marriage, that was the first time I'd ever had a one night stand, and I was 25.
After your marriage?
After my marriage,
wow,
yeah.
Wow.
Because I was a firm believer on waiting till marriage kind of thing. And yeah, so it started kind of growing from there. But I was still going to school. I was still working part-time from the home, but I was a single mom and I had majority custody of my kids. So even though, I would do my motherly duties and school and everything I had to during the day, and at night, once the kids were asleep, it was a different story. And I had that help and support from my family. And to some degree that enabled it because I could leave for hours at a time. But then I started realizing it was affecting my family, and they were watching me destroy my life and my mental health. And, like pregnancy scares or any of those kind of things that came up, I knew that was creating more and more of a problem, and enough to the point where I was like, okay, I cannot control it anymore.
So was it the frequency? Was it something that was happening a lot? Was it were you engaging in sexual chats when you weren't how bad did it get?
Yeah. So, I would spend all day long sexting multiple people. I'm talking I was talking to up to at least 15 people a day almost at once. And once one of them, I would get rid of them or whatever, I would find more. And it's I constantly had people just ready to go. So anytime I had anxiety or I got worked up or irritated or something in my daily life, that was my release. That was okay, well, I need to go take care of this. This is what I'm going to do to calm myself down. And it got in that cycle. And then it mentally messed me up because, my first experience with a one night stand, I couldn't believe that he said, okay, I'll call you later. And I was like, okay, great. That went good. And then I never heard from him again. And I was like, are you kidding? What is that all about? And that kind of crushed me, especially after a divorce. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll find another one. So, it goes on and on from there. And so you start to question yourself. It's okay, well, if I'm not good enough to be called the next day and to be going on these dates with these people after I sleep with them, then is this all I'm good for? And then you start to become self-absorbed and you focus on your looks and your body, and you immediately will put yourself out there like that. And you put yourself in very risky situations because you're dead inside ultimately, and you're kind of numb to the world, and all that matters is sex. And how can I get my fix, and how can I take some control back into my life by not being the one to just go whenever and wherever, but flipping it and being the one with control so that people are coming to me and they're meeting my standards.
What was there? What was the rationalization? Right, there's a part of you, like that voice that this is fun. I'm being free. I'm controlling the situation. What were some of the rationalizations that you would have to almost justify what you were doing, even though there's a part of you that kind of knows that it wasn't healthy, but it was there and you kept doing it, that longest river in the world, that denial. What were some of how are you rationalizing to yourself what you were doing and making it okay?
Yeah, so I rationalized it through just saying it wasn't affecting other people. I rationalized it by saying it's just sex. Who doesn't like sex? I rationalized it by saying that ultimately I was still safe, and I kept saying, it's like, okay, well, I used to be married for 5 years. I had only ever slept with 2 other people and everything. So I didn't get the whole like college party life, sleep around like most people in their early 20s do. So I just kept saying like, well, yeah, but this is my time now. I rationalized it by saying my kids had no idea and they would never find out unless I told them. And so I was like, I can still be a mom and work and do all these things while still meeting my needs.
So it's almost like there's a part of you that was like feeling empowered, almost like reclaiming this part of you. It sounds like, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it came to that point where I was very proud.
Wow. So what role did shame play? Now you have a spiritual upbringing. So many of my clients do. Sex wasn't talked about when they were children, or it was, and I grew up Catholic, and we like to joke the Catholics' guide to lovemaking. Sex is dirty and disgusting, but you save it for someone you love.
Right.
So shame played such a significant role in my acting out. What was it like for you?
So, yeah, especially being religious. So, I am LDS, and we are taught to save yourself until marriage. And then once you're married, that's okay. And it's a beautiful and sacred thing, and it unites people. So, but I felt like, okay, well, I had all those things I was supposed to have in a marriage, and look how that turned out. I was still treated like crap. And so that was me totally just rebelling and seeing like, okay, well, what else is out there? And then that just turns into hating myself and feeling disgusting and never good enough. And my body was never good enough. And I wasn't worth anything but my body. And even that wasn't good enough, So it's just like, you just are full of self-hate and you can't talk about it and you can't tell people, hey, I think I'm a sex addict. I'm having these issues. I had to lie about where I was going. I had so many secrets and so many situations or bruises because I put myself in bad situations that I had to hide and things I had to lie about for a
So
long time.
you got hurt, Ashley? Were you attacked, or what happened? Bruises?
Yeah, no. So one time I was beat by somebody.
Oh my gosh! Now was that rock bottom or no?
No, because I put myself in that situation and like, we went on a date and he was kind of aggressive, he was kind of, it was a misunderstanding, I felt like, where he thought maybe there was more of like BDSM kind of stuff going on. And I told him, I said, nope, that was too much, too far. Not gonna go for that again. He said, all right, like I guess I misunderstood. He promised he wouldn't do those things again. So I decided to trust him and go on another date. And he was totally fine, like complete gentleman. And I was like, okay, cool. I guess it really was a misunderstanding. So I went on a third date with him. Psych, right back to exactly how it was. And it was terrifying. It was one of those moments where you just shut down and you accept it.
Wow, wow. When did you finally get to a place where you realized that you couldn't do it alone? You needed help. What did rock bottom look like for you, Ashley?
I tried killing myself.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, me too. Join the club. What would
Yeah.
tell me about that?
So I had 3 moments where I was really suicidal. And one of them, I was driving to a therapy session. So, because in order for me to stop this addiction, I went to therapy twice a week for 6 months. I mean, I was very dedicated and yeah, so I was going to a therapy session and I just wanted to drive my car into a wall. I didn't care anymore. I was sobbing. And I knew if I just made it to that appointment, if I just made it to the appointment, I could get help some way. But like, you don't want to ever admit that that's where you are, right? You want to just be like, oh, I'm just having a rough day. But my therapist was amazing and saved my life that day. He really, truly did. And I was able to get through a few more days, and then it kind of hit me again. Um, and
What was driving that? Because you're in like recovery, you're getting help, but like what's that far in? What's making you feel so low and so shameful or so bad that you've got to end it all?
yeah, just like there were other outside factors going to play, and life was getting so stressful, and I felt like the worst mom in the world. I wasn't living up to church expectations. I knew I was disappointing my parents. I was losing friends left and right because they weren't willing to support my lifestyle anymore. Um, and like I was literally just losing everything, and losing who I was. And I just, I couldn't take that pain. I already suffer from depression and anxiety. So that was just like feeding it hardcore. And so when I had to stop having sex and stop using that as a way to cope, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to
Yeah,
handle
you got
things.
nothing left. How do you manage without that? Like that was almost
Yeah.
paralyzing for me. I didn't know how to manage my emotions without sex, and it was completely foreign to me. And it sounds like we've got something else in common.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't get it. I was like, well, what do I do all day? And my mom was like, how is that even a question? What do you mean, what do you do all day? And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not talking to all these people, and if I'm not going on dates, and I can't sleep with anyone, like, what the heck does everybody do all day then? And
Wow.
it was that hardcore for me. I was so engrossed in it, and so like devoted to that lifestyle, I guess you could say, for a long time, that I forgot how to just sit and be and exist and not be in that world.
What? Wow! 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 What's it like sharing this, Ashley? I mean, so many women, will email me. They've got no one to talk to. There's, you're not a sex addict, you're a slut, or if you're a guy, you're a
Ugh.
pig, and all these judgments and all these labels that are preventing people from coming forward and getting help. Which is why I'm so happy, and I cannot wait to share this broadcast, because I know that a woman is watching this, right? Is going to be watching this and say, "Oh my God, I see me in her. I don't have to do this anymore." But it had to take like what's it like sharing this for you? How vulnerable do you feel?
I feel extremely vulnerable, but I genuinely think that part of the reason as to why I went through these things is because I am very blunt and very forward, and I'm willing to share my experiences if it helps somebody else. And if it just means that somebody else out there will realize they're not alone, because that was the worst feeling. It's just feeling so incredibly alone. Even though I had every man's attention that I ever wanted, I was so alone.
Wow. Did you eventually share with family and friends that you were struggling in this way? What was that like?
Yeah, my friends kind of pretty much, I have two very, very, very close friends that pretty much have known everything from the get-go. And I'm so grateful they're the only two that never left my side. Um, because then I was losing everybody. My parents kind of knew a little more and more. They didn't know details, but then I ended up bringing them into a therapy session with me, because they were kind of confused. Like, why are you going to therapy so many times for so long? Like, we're not seeing any of these issues other than the fact that, you're kind of gone and your depression here and there, but like, what else is going on? So I brought them into a therapy session to help kind of explain and make sure that they knew it was real, and that I wasn't just saying that because I like sex and I didn't want to give it up.
What was their reaction?
Well, it's a really hard thing to tell your dad. First of all, especially when you live in their house. Of course, they're going to have all these thoughts and worries. And I mean, they both were just kind of shocked. They're like, well, that kind of makes sense with everything that we've been seeing going on and stuff. But I am seriously so incredibly grateful. I have the most supportive parents in the world. And they were willing to help out and do whatever I needed, even though they didn't get it at all. And they probably never will understand.
Was sex talked about in your home
Oh,
growing
yeah.
up? Was it, do you feel like you got a healthy sexual education?
Yeah, definitely.
Really? Wow. So you're lucky in that regard. A lot of people I talked to didn't get that. A lot of, in LDS homes too, it's not talked about, it's avoided, look away, pretend it doesn't exist. And then all of a sudden, these young boys and young girls grow up into sexual beings as teenagers, and they're like, ah,
Yeah.
kids in a candy store, and they don't have that framework, but you did get that healthy upbringing, but when it came, to the accumulation of the low self-esteem, the depression, the anxiety, the craving for attention, it just manifested, and it sounds like it exploded.
Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. So
Yeah.
what do you want to say, Ashley, to the women who are watching this right now, and who are seeing themselves in you and are seeing that connection? What do you want to tell them?
Put me on the spot. Honestly, you are worthy of healthy relationships and true love. And you have to learn to respect yourself and your body and love yourself before you can love anybody else. And all these things, and like getting caught up in it all, the amount of guys, numbers, all that, social media, none of that matters. It really truly doesn't. And you have to truly not live as a victim, and not do the whole why me? Why did this happen to me? But why did it happen for me? And just flip your perspective and try to learn from these situations so that you can come out on the other side, because it's possible.
Oh, that's beautiful, Ashley. Now, what do you want to say to the guys? And I know that's a tough one, but male culture, hit it and quit it, get in there, get out of there. Like we are conditioned since we are children. Frequency, and how many notches on your bedpost do you have, and you've obviously experienced the darker side of male sexuality and aggression, to a place where you were beaten, and there's men watching this who are trying to figure out, do I have a problem, do I not have a problem? What do you want to say to the men?
Gosh, you know what? That one's hard. I mean, first of all, I'll just
You
say
bunch of
that.
assholes. Grow up. Stop thinking with your dick, and respect people like a human being.
There
All
you
right,
go.
I kicked it off for you. You take it away.
No, well, it's just like, I think sex is great, and I obviously love it, and I think it is totally acceptable, but I think we need to stop putting ourselves in situations where guys are trying to get girls on the first date and trying to do one night stands because they have emotional problems and they're not ready to commit and they don't want to deal with the drama of a relationship, but they need to get taken care of. So it's just like, start showing respect for women and start valuing us. If you want us to turn into these like housewives and raise kids and be someone that you can look up to and have a great healthy relationship with, then stop treating us like we're hoes and that we are just going to be willing to please you whenever you want.
Yeah, yeah, so important. I think, this Me Too movement, the Time's Up
Hmm.
movement, has that given you an opportunity to reflect on you? I mean, how do you see yourself in that movement and a part of it? I mean, this certainly being here has to be, part of that. Do you connect with those movements at all?
You know what? I don't know. I think that one's a tough one for me because I am a me too. I went through some sexual abuse in high school. And so I don't know. I can feel for those people. But at the same time, I try so hard to live my life not in victim mode and getting away from that. And I'd rather speak out about it and tell people it's okay to talk about it. Speak up and say something. Say what you went through. Um, but I don't think it has to turn into, I don't know. It's kind of a tough one. I'm on
Yeah,
both
well,
sides with it.
you're talking about kind of the victim mentality versus the, like owning your shit, like taking back your life, and clearly that's what you're doing. So, what did you do, Ashley? What was the most impactful thing that you did for you in your journey to a healthy person, not just sexually, but holistically? What were some of the things that worked for you, that helped you turn that corner and to become the best version of yourself?
For me, going to therapy helped a ton. Being accountable to somebody so often, and someone I can be so open and honest with, that helped. Having a support system, that helped. Having kids helped a ton because that was the one reason I did not take my life those times, is because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't leave my kids. If I didn't have kids, I can tell you right now, if I went through all that, I wouldn't be here today. Um,
Wow.
and so that was really crucial for me. Being mindful and living in the present, and to stop focusing on past things and not worrying about future, but just literally taking it day by day. And people say that all the time, just one day at a time. And that sounds so annoying and so cliche. You're like, yeah, get out of here. Seriously, if you just take it one day at a time and you can focus literally on what you're doing in that moment and just getting through moment by moment, then it's okay. And then, I had to delete all social media, dating apps, anything. I mean, I had tons. I had to say goodbye to all the guys I was talking to, even the really hard ones that I was like, are you sure I should delete this guy's number? And my therapist was like, yes, do it right now. And I'd be like, okay. Deleting pictures and anything you had on your phone. Anything like that definitely helped too, starting over fresh.
And focusing on you. It sounds like there's an awful lot of self-care that went into the
Yes.
rebuilding of Ashley Noel.
Yeah, I decided to pick a healthy addiction, and something that could make me happy. So I started painting and drawing a ton more, and I started writing, because I'm really big on like poetry and spoken word, and that's how I like get things out after I go through something traumatic or whatever it may be.
Wow. Is there a place where we can find this spoken word? You publicize it? I'm just wondering how powerful that piece must be that talked about your journey. Is there something out there, or is this something that you keep to yourself?
It's something I share every now and then on Facebook. Like, I'll do Facebook live videos. I do have a Facebook page for my intimacy specialist. And that's just www.facebook.com/Coach Ashley Noel. And I post all my things on there. The poems, it just kind of depends what I feel like needs to be said, because they're very, very raw and they're very real, and they're very deep, and it's a lot of things that could be triggering for people, or that people just don't want to hear if they were to like stumble through a news feed. So I kind of have to be cautious with what I put
Trigger
out.
warning, trigger warning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, you mentioned mindfulness. What role did mindfulness play in your recovery and in your journey?
It played a huge part because I had to focus on, like, literally, I'd be like, okay, if I was getting anxious and I wanted to go talk to somebody or go sleep with somebody to calm myself down, or, call an ex or whatever it was, I would literally just have to be mindful and say, okay, I'm anxious right now. I am anxious because this and this. But instead of acting out on it, and I would literally talk myself through every situation, I would just say, I am in control. I can handle this. This moment's going to pass. And, I did the whole daily affirmations. I would, if I was getting super anxious, I would put everything down and try to go hang out with my kids or visit a friend or talk to my mom or whatever it was that would just take my mind off of it and help just get through that moment.
Mindfulness is so important, isn't it?
Yeah,
Do you meditate also?
I do.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I found that to be life changing. And what's so neat about it, it's like I'm in a video game. I'm always, I know you're supposed to, not be chasing something, but I love these awakenings that I have as I continue to do it and I get better at it as I can go longer. I just feel so much more connected. And I remember I was in Disneyland. God, it was only a few weeks ago, and I was anxious, I was stressed, I was surrounded by people, getting annoyed, people bumping into me, and I would just stop and say, what does it feel like to be anxious? What does it
Hmm.
feel like to be angry? And by taking that perspective, I was able to kind of step back and watch the watcher and just have the experience without the chattering mind, without the need to numb it, cope it, or escape from it. And I found it to be a very powerful experience. Do you connect with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because it's so common to try and like self-medicate, like using drugs or alcohol to cope and take away your thoughts and stuff. So it takes a very strong person to be able to admit it and talk yourself through those moments and be vulnerable with just yourself even. And I mean, I got PTSD really bad for a long time. After some of the instances I put myself through. And so, like crowds, loud noises, those kind of things, those are still things I have to work through. And I chose to put myself, not necessarily put myself in those situations, but there were times where I could have stayed home, but I decided, okay, I'm going to go because I can do this. And even if I freaked out and I cried and I needed to remove myself for a minute, I gathered myself and was just being very mindful and working through that situation. And then so that I can continue on and not let all of this stop my life from progressing.
And there came a point in time where you decided that, hey, I'm going to take this experience where it took me so low. I tried to kill myself. I put myself in these dangerous situations. And here I am moving forward. And you decided that you're going to help people. Tell me about that part of the journey.
Yeah, this part's my favorite. So I
And
found a,
notice you just lit up, right?
I
Boom, all like boom, the light behind you just hit perfect. Like your face just lit up, your voice changed like me. Like I love helping people. I get significance, I get connection. I feel so good about myself and I take such pride in it. Tell me about you.
Yeah, I mean, getting lost in service is always like a really good way to help heal yourself by putting other people first. And so I came across the company Stand Up Placer. And through them in Placer County out here in California, we work with victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. So I became trained and certified as a crisis counselor. So it's anything from like answering suicide hotlines, working in the safe house. There were so many different roles that you could play, but I chose to be a domestic violence support group counselor. So there was
Oh,
there's a
wow.
Yeah, there's one in Auburn that I ran, and it's a 7-week course, and then we kind of switch out because it can be very intense. So, we switch every other routine or whatever every 7 weeks so that you can kind of take a break and have some personal time away from what you hear. So I absolutely loved that. And that was the point where I was like, okay, this is something where I need to speak out about, and I need to, like, hearing these situations and knowing that I didn't even have it that bad for the realm of abuse and the situations some of these people have been in, it hurt my heart. It really did. And, I was able to help one girl finally. I mean, we worked together for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I think on like the 5th or 6th week, and we were spending hours with these people because the support group was an hour and a half long. And she was ready to leave her abusive relationship. And so I got on the phone, we did everything we could, and we got her into the safe house. And I was so excited. I was like, yes, this is the moment I've been waiting for. Like, hearing all these people's stories and knowing you don't know once they walk out the door if they will come back or if the next time will be the last time of some of the things that these people are going through. And that devastated me because I was like, okay, well, I'm on the other side of it now. And now I'm hearing what all these people are going through, and they're local and I can help. But, you can only help so much in these situations. So I thought, okay, well, how do I do this and do it my way, or reach the people that I know I can reach based off what I know? And, so I went to school, and I went back as a psychology major, and that helped a ton. So I figured, well, this is one thing I know. This is one thing. I get asked a lot, how are you an intimacy specialist if you're divorced? Like, how could you possibly even know about dating and what works? And that's the thing, is I am divorced. I've been through it all. I was married for a long time. I put myself through hell afterwards. And there's no better way to know how to get out of it than when you're in it yourself.
That's right. There's so many people, and that's why there's so much power, Ashley, in your testimony, because there are people listening who say, wait, that's me. She knows what I'm going through. He knows what I've experienced. Someone else has been there, because there's so much shame. There's so much shame, and that shame is keeping people stuck. And then they see something like this. I just know that people are going to watch this video and reach out for you for help. How do people get in contact with you? If someone really connects with you, Ashley, and they're listening to this, and people, you got to know, guys and gals who are listening, I don't just have anybody on my podcast, okay? I don't just go looking around. Who wants to talk about this stuff? But I met Ashley through a mutual friend, and I just was so taken by her story, and then learning about her commitment to helping other people, and knowing that, we've got the female side of this equation that is, people talk about, this isn't talked about, on the men's side. Like, it is far less talked about on the female side because of the projections and the slut shaming and the just the stereotypes and the judging, and women feel so alone. How do they get in touch with you? How can people find you?
Yeah, so you can go to my Facebook page, or you can email me at coachashleynoel@gmail.com. And then I'm getting ready to put out my own radio show. It'll come out this Friday, actually. And I will be strictly talking just about escaping sex addiction.
Wow, I'm so excited. So give me that Facebook address again, one more time, so people get it.
Yeah, so it's www.facebook.com/Coach Ashley Noel.
Awesome. And Noel with 2 L's, right?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, no, I want to make sure people get this. This is important, Ashley, because people are going to find you, and I want to make sure that they do. And, I'm going to have you back. But any Any last thoughts? Any parting words that you want to share with me and my audience? And I'm just so grateful and so glad that you're here. And I feel so blessed that you've chosen me to share your story. But anything last words that you want to say?
You know what? I'll end probably with one of my favorite quotes, where is, it's okay to be a glow stick. Sometimes we have to break before we can shine.
Ah, I love it. I love it. I'm going to use that. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Just so blessed. And ladies, you've been messaging me and hitting me up on YouTube and saying you've forgotten about me. I haven't forgotten about you. I just wanted to find the right person, and I found the right person. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, Ashley. I'm so, and obviously, guys and gals, we've talked offline. I know her methods. I know who she's working with. I know her therapist. I know the training that she's received. This is someone who can help. So please, if you're struggling, you do not have to suffer alone. And so, ladies, please, reach out to Ashley. And for my guys out there, I wanted you, I want you to see there's another side to this, that these people that you might be hooking up with and having fun with and, hitting it and quitting it, like that's a human. That's a person, and it's a person with feelings and a person who may be broken just like you. And I want you to see that, because I think, for us men, we've been conditioned to objectify. And one of the techniques that I teach, Ashley, is, for men to use that trigger to objectify, to humanize. That's a person that you're coveting, that you're, mentally exploiting and violating. It's a human being with feelings and family and connections and love. And,
somebody's daughter.
Yeah, somebody's daughter, a sister, aunt, cousin, like a real live human being. So I want you to see that. And Ashley, thank you again so much for appearing on this podcast. I look forward to having you back. If you're struggling, reach out to Ashley. We're going to be talking to her again. Thank you all so much for listening. So honored and privileged to be part of your journey, friends. Thank you for being here. And memento mori, you're going to die. So embrace your power of choice. Catch you later, everybody. Bye-bye.